Welcome everyone. Let me try and then also log into my console, right? So that in case Derek, you don't hear anything. Can anyone hear me?
Yeah, we can hear.
Yeah.
Derek, so probably you might want to exit and join again and see. And please, the dumps that you are solving, especially those of us who are using the apps on our phones and then all that, kindly be careful with them. Plenty be like baby in papa, right? So you watch out. Even the dumps that you find online, some of them, you might get the answer correct. The explanation they will give you, or you might even get the answer wrong. And the explanation they might give you. Today I experienced that thing actually. That's what I'm saying. I'm saying it. I got the answer wrong or right. But the explanation that came with it was talking about a different thing altogether. Like it wasn't something that was even related to the question that was asked. That's what I'm trying to say. So if the question was on IAM, right? The question was on IAM, and then I probably chose the wrong IAM answer. And this thing came to talk about kinesis, or he came to talk about SQS, right? The way explanation was just about SQS. I was like, yo, so we have to also, take notice of that. Okay. Hey, my course it was 0.01. How how come is it 0.1? Let me see. EC2. Definitely the IP addresses that I used. Please give me a moment. Let me check my course. Then make sure that.
Hello.
Yeah, hello.
You check like I know they hear anything. Is it from my end alone?
Yeah, because they said everybody says they can hear me. So probably it should be from your end. EC2 February. Because the cost appears like after 24 or 48 hours, sometimes 72. So I need to make sure that I don't have anything on. So that I don't get surprised at the end of the month. Okay, so EC2 US is not Virginia. So this was the NAT gateway that I used. Okay, so that was the one we were doing the session. But did I use this thing for 2 hours? How long do the class even last that I'll be charged for 2 hours of NAT gateway? Zero 0.45 GB data processed by NAT gateways per GB. Maybe 0.02 GB per hour. 0.45. So I use it for 2 hours. But we take that step. All right, so let's begin. So RDS, right? So we all know RDS, what RDS is. So RDS is a relational database service, okay, by AWS. So they provide managed database services for relational databases. So talk of SQL, talk of MySQL, talk of Oracle, DB, talk of Postgres, and then Aurora, right? So I think to help matters, let me just open. MKS, yeah, a lot of them has mistakes, right? So if you don't take care, especially if you don't understand, you might think say, oh, you're on track, but they, you'll be misled. So you have to be careful with them. But I know currently, do I say it's too late? It's almost close. But for me, Scale Builder has actually helped me because when you are reading Scale Builder, definitely you are just reading from AWS themselves, right? So there is a guarantee that you have the right information. So me, I use Scale Builder a lot. If I should open my Scale Builder dashboard, you'll see a lot of courses that I've taken and then badges. I have a lot of AWS badges for the courses that I've taken from there. All right, so these are the database offerings by RDS. So there is Aurora MySQL compatible, and there is Aurora Postgres. So Aurora is a service that provides either MySQL or Postgres, right? For the two. There is MySQL, there is MariaDB, and then Postgres itself, and Oracle, Microsoft SQL Server, and then IBM database too. So these are different database options, and you are not going to be asked like deep, but I mean, when it has to do, it is related to one particular database, you'll be told, right? The question will say that the company has a relational database, maybe which is Oracle, and they would want to move, unless they say that they would want to move it to, let's say, MariaDB, all right? And in case the schemas are different, then they will ask you about something called the schema converter tool. So before you move a database type, let's say from Oracle to MySQL or from Oracle to Postgres, then you need a schema conversion tool to convert the database to, suit the schema of the Postgres server or Postgres database before you use a database migration service to migrate them. But aside that, it's if it's Oracle to Oracle, you use the DMS, the database migration service, to migrate the database, right? So that is just it. There's a question they are going to ask you. A company uses a relational database, right? And then they would want to migrate. Sometimes it's even like that, a relational database, and they would want to migrate to the cloud. What service should they use? They should just use the DMS to migrate to RDS, or maybe the substitute for the database is RDS, right? If they specifically specify a MySQL, then you are looking at RDS or MySQL. On Aurora, they would they will ask you about, they use it for online transaction processes, right? So Aurora is for OLTP. Okay, so Aurora is OLTP, right? So I'm trying to, I'm doing the explanation on the exam terms, right? So immediately you hear OLTP, online transaction processes, okay, or for online transactions, then you are looking at Aurora. Now there will be a question also on, they use Aurora, and maybe they've spread globally, and then they would want a serverless, solution for the Aurora database. There's what we call Aurora serverless, right? And there's also, and you can also, so if you want Aurora serverless, then you're also looking at Aurora, no, let me put it here, Aurora global tables. Okay, so there is an option like that, or Aurora global table for RDS. Okay, so these are the various offerings for database. Most of the times, as I said, and so let me talk about read replicas. Okay, you see, I'm actually doing the overview because we've spoken about all these things before. Database, they are all there, they are all on the videos. You can go there and then go and revise. Now, at what point do you need read replicas? Right. So you would want to create read replicas when you have high read volumes. Okay. You have high read volumes and you want to meet certain compliance. I've forgotten that one. Um, there's a kind of compliance that you have to, is it I something something or H something something, not HIPAA, right? Not HIPAA actually. So you have high read volumes and you would want a solution, right, to take the burden off your database instance. So what do? You create a read replica, okay, to handle the read request. So you just modify your endpoint to point to the read replica for to just to reduce the burden from your main database instance. And then RDS has that. Aurora also has that. But as I said, in the case of Aurora Global Data Table or Aurora Serverless, the question should specifically ask you that they want a serverless option, right? Or they are serving global clients, so they want a way that the application will be available, or like highly available to them, or I mean, they should be able to access the database globally. Then you are looking at Aurora Global, all right, global table. The same thing in DynamoDB. So DynamoDB is a non-relational database, right? So most of the times they are going to mention it for cases with DynamoDB, or they will tell you they want a non-relational database. All right. So that is read replica. There is also multi-AZ, right? Multi-AZ DB instances. All right. So what this one also means is that most of the questions too, when you read it, you get to realize that okay, they have their database in a single availability zone, and they would want a solution where the database is what is highly available, right? So to ensure, and anytime you hear high availability, then you are looking at what a multi-AZ kind of deployment, right? You don't do multi-AZ replica, please. You do a multi-AZ instance. Now, the difference between a replica and then an instance is that with multi-AZ instances, you have the main databases in both availability zones or in one more than one availability zones. So in each availability zone, the database can have what a read replica. The read replica sits in the same availability zone. Okay. Or if you activate multi-AZDB cluster or multi-AZDB read replica, then you are trying to put your read replica in another um, availability zone. Okay. But most of the times for high availability, you are looking at creating multi-AZDB instances. Okay. So that's basically like what I would say about RDS. Okay. Unless anybody has a specific question on RDS, you bring it up. Even if it's a question that you've seen somewhere, you can post it in the chat. Then we'll talk about it. If not, I am moving on. I'm moving on to the storage, the EBS and then EFS. So yes, for read replica, you have a main database instance. So let's use one availability zone, right? You have a database instance, and then the question will definitely give you a hint as to whether you need a read replica or a multi AZ database instance, right? Now, in the case of read replica, they are going to tell you that the workload has high read right? Intensive workloads or high read demands, and it's putting a lot of pressure on your database instance. So in that case, it has affected the performance of your database instance. So what do you do? What you do is that you provision read replica, right? So let me even mention Elastic Cache as well. This is different from Elastic Cache. Now, with Elastic Cache, you are looking at in memory, so it's like the same data is read over and over again, right? So you would want to also provide like high and how. So when we talk about latency, low latency, so high speed read, then you consider using what? Elastic Cache. So Elastic Cache can even be deployed on a read replica, right? So that the data that is read often will be cached on the Elastic Cache. So Elastic Cache is in memory, right? It will be cached at the Elastic Cache level, so that one, it gives low latency, right? Low latency read should be this way.
Yeah, Henry.
Yeah.
The friends, Memcache did and the Redis, no. If you differentiate between them, give me.
So Memcache and Redis. I read this today. Oh, I've really
And
forgotten.
also a day Elastic Cache under, but it always they come for me.
Yeah. So I go Google that one. I forgot. I forget. Unless like I see question on them before I will be able to. They don't have like any huge difference, but just the use case is the use case that is different. I think for Redis is able to work as a database on its own. I'll just Google this. Uh, but
Hello.
yeah,
I don't remember where I saw it, but I think I saw somewhere that Redis has to do when they mention sticky sessions,
yeah, correct.
then you go with Redis.
Come on, I beg you. What is the meaning of sticky sessions?
So sticky sessions is just like you visit a website. Let me look at this. I don't want to open something. One, two. I want page where I open recently. Okay, no, let me even go to Google. I will have to let me search something. Henry, correct, right? So if I should press this, I press enter. Okay, normally, so you see this one. You see the color of this one is different from this.
Yeah.
Correct. So it has saved my session data. You understand?
Okay.
Yes, in the sense that it's able to record which one I've visited like just recently. So it means I've opened this one
Okay.
before, right? But I haven't opened
Okay.
it. So there is a time to leave. After some days or something, if I come back and then search again, I wouldn't see it this way.
Okay. Mm,
It wouldn't recognize that I've visited it. So I think the browser or whatever is routing you. So if it is a load balancer that is routing me, the load balancer is able to save these sessions using probably my IP address or some other data.
okay.
It's the same person that is coming to visit the same result. So let me just give the session data.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. So that's what we call the sticky session, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
So a more reason why, especially when you use Chrome. If I should, no, I won't open my email. if I open my Gmail, sometimes it doesn't even require you to log in. It opens your inbox straight, right? That session is saved. But after some time, it will ask you to log in again or something of that sort, right? So that is about That's just sticky session. Yeah, so I think Redis is actually for those stuff. And then Memcache is for on databases. Okay. Who spoke? What is it? I'm not seeing the people, but whoever spoke, thank you very much. All right, so okay, that's about the data. Yeah, so I was explaining the read replica, right? So immediately they say it's affecting the performance of the database. Then you are looking at provisioning what read replicas, unless they tell you that okay, there are some frequently read data, and then you want a cached solution or an in-memory cache solution or something of that sort. Then you look at also adding an elastic cache. Now, multi-AZ instance is always about high availability. So sometimes you can have a 2-in-1 or a 3-in-1 question, just as Okan says, right? So they will tell you they want to improve the performance of the database and as well as make sure that the database is highly available. Then you look at okay, doing read replicas and then also doing what multi-AZ DB instance. Let me even add it. Right. This is what you would want to do. All right. Please, are you okay with that? So while we are on it, you can kindly go around, get questions, bring it. We'll look at it. We'll solve it live here. I think that's also something that will help us. Right. So okay, so let's look at EBS. Now we only told say EBS is what? It's a block storage. But what is a block storage? So blocks, forget about that term. Right? Forget about that term. Now, because even the questions, I hardly see like block storage, because immediately you see a block storage and definitely you go for it. But sometimes they tell you persistent, right? Low latency storage for EC2. You hear this a lot. That's why I put the persistence there. No, so the non-persistent set. Okay, I'll explain that. Okay, so a block storage is just you storing objects in a hierarchy form. So just like on your computer, right, on your laptop right now, you're able to create. Okay, so that's what Google says. So Google says memcache is rather for session. Memcache is rather for session data, and then Redis. Because yes, I know one can be used as a database, right? A database itself. All right, so if that's what Google says, then we'll go with that. Because I mean, one is one, and then the other is a. Because I know one is for is able to like act as a database, not the normal database like the RDS MySQL and then all that, but it's also able to, stand as a database on its own, right? So if that is, yeah,
I don't chip in for here. You see, with regards to the replicas, I've noticed that you have two types of the replicas. You have the read replica and also the standby replica.
right.
And the standby replica is for high availability purposes, but the read replica is for scalability.
Scalability, right?
So I guess they add up to what it's saying.
Sure. And then also the difference between the standby replica, you can also call it like a cluster, right? The difference between the standby replica and then the multi-AZ instance is that the multi-AZ instance is synchronous. So when you say synchronous, whatever you write here, the same thing will be seen here. Like if I write A on database A, the person in database B is able to see it, right? But the replica instance, right? The replica instance is asynchronous. It means that if data is written in database A, you will have to wait for some time for you to be able to see it in database B. So let us also know the difference. Okay. So if you hear asynchronous, then you are looking at an instance replica, right? Or a cluster, a DB cluster or something. but you see like maybe an instance replica. But if you hear synchronous, then you are looking at multi-AC database instance. All right, Charlie, thank you. All right, so for EBS, right, you are able to create a folder. So let me represent this. Hey, I've forgotten my drawing for folder. All right, so let me use this for folder. All right, so you are able to create a folder. All right, let me even use it this way. You create a folder at the top here, right? Under this folder, you have some files. You can even have another file in here, right? This one can also come, and then you have another file here. Even under this main one, you can have another file here, right? Like that. So that is a hierarchy. On your PC, you are able to do that. And then you are able to do that because of the volume that is attached. So that is what Amazon calls it elastic block storage. So the normal hard drive in your PC is what we call the block storage or the EBS volume. Okay, that is just it. That is just what we call EBS volume. Now, when you talk about persistent data, right, we say it is a persistent data because the storing of the object is not what's it called? It's not temporal. Like the data is there. Anytime you go there, you're able to see it. All right. And then non-persistent means that, so this one means that even if the instance is not reachable, the volume is still there. Okay. So and then it still has your information intact when you even put off the instances, right? So if I should go to sorry, let me clean this down here. So back to the console. If I should go to EC2, you will see that I have two volumes. So let me close this. So you can see Elastic Block Store, right? Under Elastic Block Store, I have two volumes, right? For the two instances that I have created, right? So these are the two volumes there. So even though I have turned off the instances, right? The instances are off, the volume are still there. And any data that I saved on it is going to be there till I terminate the instance, right? And if I terminate the instance, the volumes will go because so I'm coming to explain another thing. That is because it's a root volume. You understand? So in AWS, normally, if I am disposing of a laptop, okay, unless the IT guys who know how we do it, but normally, if I'm disposing of a laptop, it's kind of says that the laptop goes together with the hard disk drive or the volume that is in it, right? Most of the IT people will remove it and then dispose of the laptop itself and then use the external as a hard drive. Myself, I have about two here that I removed from computers, right? And then we use them as external. But then the logic, the general idea is that if you are disposing of a laptop, then it goes with the volume as well, right? Everything about it goes. Okay. So if you have a root volume, so you can use an EBS as a root volume. In fact, that is the recommended. That is what every instance that you launch has an EBS volume attached, and then it is used as the root volume, and that is where your operating system files and everything are on. Right. So if I should open my PC currently, and then I will go to disk C, right? I have to clean this. If I open my disk C, you can see, some files, some are supposed to be hidden, but I've enabled view hidden files. That's why. All right. You see all these things, program files. So every software that I've installed, the Zoom I'm using is a software. They are seen in the program files, right? And you can see users. So the user that I've created on this PC, you can see the users here. You can see windows, right? So the windows are I mean, Windows files. You see boot, and you can see they are boot files. Okay, so this is a root volume. So in case I would want to, let's say, clear my operating system, right, and then install new one, it means all these files are going to go. Okay, all these files are going to go, and the new ones will be put on it. Okay, so that is what we call root volume. This is the volume that supports my operating system installation and everything. If I should remove this hard drive, if I put on the computer, it will come on all right, but it will tell me no operating system found. So your operating system is installed on your boot volume. Now, what are some of your questions that the exam will ask? The exam will ask that, say that so I'm talking about root volumes, right? I'm talking about on root volume. The exam can ask that, okay, so this person has launched an EC2 instance with an EBS volume of blah blah blah. He used the volume for his files, saving his files and then all that. But then when the instance was terminated, they realized that not stopped though. When the instance was terminated, they realized that the volume that came with it also got deleted, and then they lost the files. What is the reason? The reason is simple. The volume that they used was a root volume. So when the instance was terminated, it went away with it. All right. And then there is instance store that is non-persistent. So even though when you launch the instance, right, and then the instance is on, as far as the instance continues to be on, the volume works. But immediately you stop the instance, the volume gets deleted, or you lose, the volume itself doesn't get deleted, but you lose every file on it. Okay, so it does not have like it's a non-persistent storage when you talk of instance store, right? So that one, unless a reboot, if you don't reboot and then you stop and start, you are going to lose the files that you have on it. All right, so that is also about EBS, root volume, instance store, and then persistent data. All right, and as I said, if you hear these things, persistent data, persistent volume, and what that stores files in a hierarchical form, then you are looking at EBS. So it's just a volume that is attached to the EC2 instance. Okay. EFS. EFS is just a network version or a shared version of EBS. Okay. So you have EC2 instance one, which will have its block volume. All right. Every instance, as I said, has its block volume. So it will have EBS. Okay. Instance 2 also has its EBS attached, right? And then instance 3, right? So let's say these machines are used by 3 different people, right? And then they basically work around the same files, right? They work on the same file. So what you can do, and then everybody would want to see what files this person has worked on, or the company just have a policy for everybody to save their stuff in. Yes, another thing too, for high performance. So immediately they tell you they need, the company need high performance, right? High performance instance with low latency to the MKS. Thank you very much. I forgot this thing. So there is another question that you have to use the instance store, right? So when they say that they have a very, huge workloads, and then they use it to run batch processes, and they need a high performance volume with low latency to the EC2 instance, then you are looking at instance store, right? Instance store is very fast, high performance. It has a very high performance, so it's fit for batch jobs, right? When you are done with the batch jobs, you don't need the instance again, or you don't need the volumes again, because the data will be processed and then be saved in another storage service. So you use instance store for that as well. So thank you for that, MKS. All right. So there is something, as I said, so these people are working on different EC2 instances, but they need a central storage. All right. So what you can do is you have to allocate EFS. I think all the labs that we have been doing on when the labs that we did on storage, we did this, right? So you have an EFS. So all you need to do is that you just create a mounts directory, right? A mounts directory on each instance. This one will have a mounts directory. This one will also have a mounts directory. All right. And then now you mount the EFS volume. So you can also hear what you call NFS. That's the network file system, or what you call shared volume, right? So if you hear shared volume, why am I even using this? So EFS, NFS, shared volume, and then we have something called POSIX, right? Is what is it? It uses, is it POSIX protocol or POSIX compliant? In one of them. Google is here. Yeah, so it's POSIX compliant. Okay, so it stands for Portable Operating System Interface. All right. So if you hear anything that says, what is it? A network file system or NFS, shared volume, POSIX, then you are looking at what? EFS. All right. Yeah. And we are looking at EFS. So it's mainly for shared storage, right? So you can use that as a central storage for you. So you can have, I mean, just like how people do on your regular PCs, they can have their hard drive for their root volume, sometimes a very low storage, and then they will have a separate volume that they store their music files and everything on it. Right. So that one, even if you terminate the instance, or what's it called? I said we terminate it, you change your PC, you are still able to have that volume, and then you have your files on it. All right. So another thing that I forgot to talk about on the EBS. So you can also have an extra volume, right? So if I should go to EBS volumes, I can just create a volume. Okay, I can just create a volume and it will be lying there. It won't be doing anything. Okay, so I can just create a volume of say 2 gigabytes. All right, IOPS. I don't want plenty IOPS. Let me just do, okay, the minimum is 3,000. So let me just leave it. Throughput, okay, so I'll leave everything. So you can see, don't create a volume for, yes, I'm not creating it from a snapshot. And then I choose to encrypt it or not. And then I'll just create the volume, right? So this one is not attached to an EC2 instance, right? It's a volume that is there. You understand? And okay, this GP3, that's why the minimum is 3,000. These ones are GP2 volumes. Okay. Now, this volume is created without, as you can see, it's not attached to any resource, right? So that's how volume. So it's just like your computer. You can just go out there, go and buy a hard disk drive. Okay. You can just go out there and go and buy a hard disk drive, and then you come and attach it. Somebody want to talk? Right? You can just go out there, go and buy a new hard drive, and then come and attach it to your PC. So here, I've allocated a new hard drive. So let's say I've bought a new hard drive like that, right? And then I can attach it to what's it called, an EC2 instance. So none of my instances are on. That is why I'm not able to attach it. But then if I have an instance on, volume status, yes, it's okay, right? If I have an instance on, I can just go to actions and then attach the volume to an EC2 instance, right? The next thing I have to log into the instance. Okay, no, the state is still creating. So why is it showing? Okay, it's creating now. So I think when it's done creating, I should be able to do that. The instance doesn't have to be on. Okay, so let's wait for it to create whilst I explain the other stuff. All right. All right. All right. So I can just attach it. And then now for this volume, since it is not a root volume, right? Even if I terminate the instance, that volume will still remain. Okay, that volume will still remain. And then I'll be able to attach it to another EC2 instance. And even as while it is attached, I don't even have to terminate the instance. I can still detach it and then attach it to another volume, add another EC2 instance. It's beautiful as that. That's the beauty of cloud. All right. So I've explained EFS as well. Any more question? Any question or say any more question? And then SQS. So SQS, we learned this one is fresh in our brains, right? So SQS is for decoupling. So if you hear anything of the company processes orders and then they realize that some orders are not processed, they get lost, or the request on the server is being overwhelmed, right? So let me try and then draw and then try to explain. So normally you have an order processing system, okay? So maybe it's on an EC2 instance, okay? And then user 1 buys, user 2 buys.
Hello, Isaac.
Yep.
Yeah, so wait, is it EFS that can be attached to more than one instance?
Yes, EFS can be attached to more than one instance.
And EBS is to one instance only.
Yes, one volume to one instance.
Okay.
At a time. The EBS is at a time. One instance at a time.
Yes, one instance. The EBS is one instance at a time. All right. Okay. So, right, you have user 1 visiting. So at the end of the day, you have like 20, no, let me say 200, right? 200 orders that needs to be probably processed by another EC2 instance. Okay. And then since there are many, this thing can overwhelm this EC2 instance. They will not be able to handle it, right? So what do? You now put an SQS queue, right? You use an SQS service. So it means that all these 200 orders will come and then queue up in the queue. And then now the same EC2 instance can do what? Pull it one by one and then process it. And then if you are using auto scaling with it, if you are using auto scaling with SQS queue, you are able to set a CloudWatch metric, right? To scale up the instances, right? To scale up the instances based on the number of messages in the SQS queue. So that's basically about SQS. Okay. And there is the standard and there is a FIFO. So standard is at least once delivery. Yes, the standard is at least once delivery. So it means that your message can be delivered more than once, but you have a guarantee that your message will be delivered at all costs. And then the FIFO is at most, once delivery, right? So there is the standard. Let me write this. So decoupling standard and then FIFO. Okay. There will be a question on you want to convert a standard SQS queue to a FIFO queue. What are the processes that you are supposed to go through? Now you have to make sure that the FIFO, the one that you are using for FIFO, or the FIFO SQS mode should have the .FIFO, okay, or FIFO. You can say FIFO. Don't mind me, all right? Okay, so MKS, he asked, apart from it being used for Linux servers, what difference again does EFS has from FSX for Windows server? So it's just that if is a difference, then, and if you hear SMB, then you are looking at Windows, right? As far as FSS for Windows is for Windows servers. right? So if you are looking for the differences, then that is just it. And then for SMB as well, anything that has to do with Linux. And then if you are doing the FSX volumes with Linux, you have to use FSX for Laster, right? FSX for Laster. This one. This one, I need to find time and then explain them. FSX for Laster, all right? This one is a different volume. This one is a different thing from EFS, actually, right? So there is FSX for Laster, there is FSX for Windows, right? I can actually explain these things overhead like today. So we'll look at that one another time. And then there was what? FSX for yeah, plenty.
Net on tap was a BB.
Yes.
And
FS
then it's EFS.
for net on tap. And then
Isaac, please. Okay, you let them after you finish. Then
yeah.
the last hour, I wanted to find out. Is it the one for line?
Yes, so these ones have used like different use cases.
Then the other one, the net.
Net on tap.
Okay.
Yeah, for net on tap, most of the times you will see it for they will say they did something for net on tap, and then you just select net on tap. So it hardly would you get questions like that. Yes, I will say you were listening them net on tap and then another one.
Yeah, it's net app on tap. I'm putting it in the chat. Is that okay?
Sure. Yes.
Oh, I should have mentioned. Okay.
Yes, net app on tap. Right. So these ones we'll talk about them later. Okay, let me put them in italics. Aha. So it's good that you brought it up, MKS. They actually have like a different use case altogether. Okay. So we'll talk about it. But if it is in that sense, then if for Linux you are using FSX for Laster, if it is for Windows, you are using FSX for Windows, right? But then, as I said, there is a different use case altogether for it. So we'll talk about that one. Okay, so SQS, what again? So decoupling, FIFO, right? This one, if you need like deeper ones, please just try and then go back to the videos. You skip to the SQS session and then watch it. There is what we call let me try and explain all of them. Dead letter queue, right? DLQ, dead letter queue. So dead letter queue is when a message it's not processed, right? Or it's failing. If it's failing to be processed, then yes. So there is FSX for NetApp on tap, and then FSX for ZFS. Correct. Right. Their use cases are different. We'll look at it some other time. So kindly remind me. Obiam Toronto notebook. And then remind me. Right. So dead letter queue is when a message is failing to be processed. Okay. So some of the times, yes, you have an application or a workload that you are decoupling or you are ordering it. You are using SQS to actually like process the orders. But you realize that there are some delays, okay, because some messages are not being processed. They are failing to process. Right. To specifically say the messages are failing to be processed. So what do you do? Okay, so you do what you call a dead letter queue. So that message will be sent to the dead letter queue to be retried later, right? It's just like you are in a queue, and then probably it gets to your turn, and then whatever is required. It happens in banks, right? It happens in banks. You get there, and then you need another thing, and they will tell you that okay, go and get it. By the time you can, somebody can do your place. You have to wait, probably stand aside because people saw you there, so they might probably tell you to stand aside for maybe 2 or 3 people to come and pass before they call you back in to serve you, right? So that's just how dead letter queues work. Okay, so I can't process you at this time because of this requirement. So stand aside. Let me serve others. When you are able to, I mean, you are fit for processing or you are up for processing, then you avail yourself or we call you back into the queue for you to be processed. Okay. All right. The other time I talked about long polling, I talked about the delay timer, visibility timer, and like that, right? So visibility timer is like, let me try and then see if I can do the diagram, right? So a message comes in, okay, and then it has 30 seconds of visibility, okay. Now that means that within this, so this is the visibility time, right? Within this period, and then let's say we have 1, 2, 3, 4. All processing messages from this queue. All right. So a message comes, and then within this period, right? Maybe let's say this instance pulls the message. It means that within this period of 30 seconds, the message is not going to be available to any of these. Okay. After 30 seconds. So on SQS queue, it means that if this one is finished processing the message, then it should delete the message. But let's say, so let me use outside here. Okay, so let me clean. Correct. And then just put it here. So the message is here. Okay. So it means that within this period, since this one is processing it, the message is not visible to the other instances, all right, or the other consumers. Let me put it so the consumers can be anything at all. The other consumers. Now, after 30 seconds, if let's say this one is able to process it within 30 seconds, then it should delete it. Okay. But let's say it didn't delete, right? It didn't delete, or it is still processing it. Then it snaps out of the 30 seconds window. The 30 seconds window will be up. And then now the message comes here. When it comes here, it is open for any of these instances to pull it, right? So let's say this instance pulls it again, and then it has another 30 seconds. Within that 30 seconds, if let's say as at that time, so we have 1 minute, and as at that time, this one is still processing it, this one is still processing it, and after 30 seconds, this one comes, all right, it snaps out of it, and then this one pulls it, then we have the same message being pulled by what? 3 different consumers. So finally, this one is able to process it, this one is able to process it. So I mean, approximately 1 minute, 30 seconds, all right, they all process it. So this one is the last one that processed the message, all right, and then now deletes it. So the message is not available now, but then you have duplicates because this same thing has been processed. So we have the same message appearing what or being pulled 3 times. Okay, that is duplicate. So exams, yes, they will ask you. You have SQS, but you realize that some messages are processed more than once. Okay, like there are duplicates. How do you solve that? All right, how do you solve the duplicate, the issue of duplicate? Or no, it says that you realize that a consumer, that is what is going to happen. A consumer processes a message for a long time, and because of that, another consumer is like, I mean, pulls it, and then you have a duplicate. Okay, then how do you solve it? You increase the visibility timer, right, of that message. You're looking at the long, so due to the long processing hours, so you increase the visibility timer. All right. For in the case of FIFO, they will ask you, you want the message to be sent the way, sorry, you want the message to be processed the way they are sent. Then you are looking at FIFO. All right. There is also something called long polling. right? So long polling, you know, these consumers, all right, let me. Okay. Right, these consumers, as we said, they pull from the SQSQ. All right. So this one will come. Is there a message for me? No, it will go. Is there a message for me? No, it will go. And then maybe it comes for like 10 seconds. All right. Maybe 10 seconds. All comes for 10 seconds. So we did 10 seconds. Is there a message for me? They wait 10 seconds, nothing comes. And then it goes back. So it means that after every 10 seconds, when they start pulling for message, after every 10 seconds, they will pull. After every 10 seconds, they will pull for messages. All right. So you would want to also reduce the calls that are made to your SQSQ, right? You want to reduce that. So what do? You activate what you call what? Long polling. So it means that instead of 10 seconds, hey, stay here for about 10 minutes. So even if you come in and there is no message, wait for about 1 minute, right? Or 2 minutes. The limit is there. I don't have that. Before you go back. There's also short polling. You can also okay, Charlie, the 10 seconds is too long. 2 seconds. So every 2 seconds, come and ask. Every 2 seconds, come and ask. Okay. So that is also long polling. And there is also a delay timer. So the delay timer works with the message, right? The time, don't confuse this. Delay timer is different from visibility. So with delay, right? With the message delay, you are also looking at the time it takes for a message to be sent into the SQSQ. All right. Maybe you want a message to be sent maybe in 2 kilobytes, right? And then the consumers are also sending the message. So you can say that maybe approximately within 5 seconds, a message should be up to 2 kilobytes. So yes, wait for 5 seconds before you deliver the message into the queue. Okay. So it means that your delay timer and then your polling should kind of balance, in the sense that by the time a consumer pulls a message will be available, so that one, messages won't lie in the queue without being processed for long, and then two, your with polling, your consumers wouldn't also be pulling from your queue like plenty of the times or most of the times, right? So that is also about SQS. SNS, simple notification service. This one, we said it works in what? A pub and sub. Okay, so you create an SNS topic. So every topic, it can be an S3 event, it can be even an SQS event, right? No, sorry. So SNS publishes to, yes, you can even send an SQS message to another SNS, right? SNS topic, maybe to trigger a Lambda function or even to trigger an admin or what have you, right? So you first create a topic and then you create a subscriber, right? So the subscriber will subscribe to the topic, and then the subscriber can be an email, an HTTP endpoint. So if there's a HTTP endpoint, it can even be a website, right? Don't be confused about it. An HTTP endpoint, and then AWS resources. Let me put it that way, right? And then other AWS resources, and then the popular one that we normally hear is what? Lambda. SNS topic can trigger a Lambda function. We hear that a lot. Okay, so You create a topic, and then the topic can be any event. All right. You can even set up like a CloudWatch. Okay, your instance is down. You receive a message. Okay, those of you who manage servers, web servers especially, you see uptime message, downtime message. This server is down, this server is up, right? You can do that with SNS. So you create a topic, and then you link that topic towards maybe CloudWatch. The subscriber is your email, right? Currently, what's I know of the power sector a bit, so that's why sometimes I veer off there. One of the solutions that we developed in some of the projects that I worked on previously was these things, right? So it sets tamper triggers, and then there are people who receive these tamper triggers, right? So immediately you tamper with your meter, anybody opens it, then a notification is sent to the engineer or a district engineer supervisor or something, that okay, this meter with IP address, this address, this. In fact, every information about the address depends on the information they took on the meter, right? So if during the day of the installation they took your house address, they took your phone number, they took your GPS, then the message that will be sent, it will say that meter installed at this place, that place, that place, that place with this information has been tampered with, and it will tell the type of tamper. Either a terminal was opened, the meter was switched off manually, a cable was removed, the meter cover was opened, all those, anything that has to do with tamper will be sent, right? An email will be sent. So that is basically how SNS works, right? It's just like that. So you create the topic, subscriber, and the subscriber can be at any point, right? And they can be event triggers and what have you. And if you want to integrate it with SQS, it is each topic to each queue. Okay, each topic to each queue. If you want to have a topic, many queues subscribing to one topic, then you have to use what we call a group ID, right? I explained that in our previous session. So you use a group ID so that you kind of have multiple SQS queues subscribing to an SNS topic, right? Using the groups. Okay. Endpoint. The simple way that I can explain endpoint is that one uses internet and it will cost you money. And then one uses internal connection. Internal connection. Free. Paid. Okay. So you hear a question that a company has their network infrastructure, and they have a DynamoDB or an S3 bucket that they would want their private resources to connect to and then for gateway endpoints is DynamoDB. Yes. So what I said, what the strategy I use for a topic to be subscribed to by multiple SQSQ. Yes, the technical term is fan outs. Thank you, MKS. We call it fan outs, right? You use the fan outs option to do that. All right. So you have your network, right? S3 bucket is sitting here, right? Your DynamoDB is you can be here. I'm just drawing it. Your DynamoDB is sitting here. right? You have your subnet, maybe RDS or something. Maybe no. We have a database already. So let me put this in there. Your web, your EC2 instances there. All right. And then, so as I said, the question will go like, you want these privates, maybe your web tier. Well, intranet, yes, definitely you can say you can use that. You can term that as that, right? So intranet is when the services like are just accessed by the internal people. So yes, I think you can just use that to explain. All right. So you want the web services to access S3 bucket and then access DynamoDB, but then you don't want to use the internet too. You want the most cost efficient way, right? So what do? You set up a gateway endpoint at the VPC, not the subnet. The gateway endpoint sits at the VPC so that the connection will be made to these services, and it is free because you are using your internal connection. It's not the internet. So we are all aware that the VPC that we set up, they are not internet networks or they are not internet connections. Okay. So if an EC2 instance is communicating with another EC2 instance in a subnet, it is not going through the internet. All right. Especially with the private and the public internet, something that we did, it is not going through the internet, right? It's just like your normal office. And then you have connected cables to computers to communicate. Those ones are not using internet. The only time that you use internet in your office. So if you are in your office and then you are accessing payroll files, right? You are accessing payroll files, you are accessing finance files, you are not using the internet. Okay, is here. He will explain more of that. It is only when you are sending an email to somebody, okay? You are sending an email to somebody. What again? I think that's basically from the office. That's basically some of the things that you do, right? You are doing external communications outside your office, right, to an external person. That is when you use the internet. And then the IT people can that use the company's internet to download your stuff, right? Aha. But most of the work that you do, you are using your company's internal connection to do all those things. So if you are sending a file to maybe somebody in payroll and they tell you that, oh, put it in the payroll folder. I have a folder, I have a directory in the payroll payroll drive, right? I have a folder there. You have the name, blah, blah, blah there. So put the file in. You are not using the internet. It's just the internal connection that you are using. This is that okay, right? So you set up what? And as I said, it's only for these two, right? You set up a gateway endpoint and then the services can connect to S3 or DynamoDB. But maybe you want other resources outside your AWS. Maybe you have on-prem something, right? And then you also don't have a direct connection. And then you'll have to set up an interface endpoint. Okay. And I think for the interface endpoint, it sits on the subnet. All right. Let me Google just to confirm. Let me see if this picture will help. So these are gateway endpoints. Correct. So this is an interface endpoint, right? So the interface endpoint sits in the subnet. Okay, and as I said, for gateway endpoint is for S3 and DynamoDB. Finish. All right. So anytime you hear S3, DynamoDB, they would want a cost-effective way to connect this to these resources without using the internet. Straightforward. We are looking at gateway endpoint. All right. And then these are the interface endpoint services, plenty. API gateway, CloudFormation, CloudWatch, right? Code build, config, EC2, load balancing. And you know, these are services that actually need the internet to work. Okay, because for SNS like this, right? So I think this one helps. So the interface endpoint sits in the subnet, the gateway endpoint sits at the VPC, at the edge of the VPC. All right. So deployed at the subnets, and this one deployed at the VPC. Kineses, right? I'll just be straight with this for stream data. Okay, and then if you hear real time, right? So, and there's another thing. A company takes weather forecasts, rain, something, then you should look at real time. And also, if you hear IoT, anytime you are reading a question and it starts with IoT, first you think about kinesis, right? Kinesis first, and then I read further. If you further read and then you feel like, okay, kinesis is out of the, because I mean they can start with IoT, but at the end of the day they might even come and talk about Amazon EC2, but they want something to ingest stream data. All right, they want to ingest stream data. Then you are looking at kinesis. And then if you hear real time or near real time, okay, one is for what? Data streams, kinesis data streams, and so real time is for kinesis data streams, and then near real time is for kinesis data firehose. Okay, that's near real time. Sometimes, right? Some of the question, even though they said is near real time, the endpoints, okay. So for firehose per se, it's firehose firehose delivery point or endpoint is to one, let me put it at consumer at a time. Okay, so firehose works this way, right? It's just like a pipe. So it's either going into the endpoint for firehose. There are three. I mentioned it the other time. I forgot it. I know of Redshift, right? I know of S3.
And open search.
Open search.
Correct. And then open search. So these are the three. But then it doesn't go to the three at the same time, right? It is one at a time. So either you are setting your endpoints to Redshift, I'll use RS, or, right? So this is for one host, or you are setting your host to send to OpenSearch, or you are sending it to what? S3. Unlike data streams that can be sent to multiple at the same time, right? At the same time. So that is it. So when they tell you probably it is near real time, but then it says that the endpoint should be multiple consumers or multiple endpoints at the same time, then it will floor data fire hose. So even though it's near real time, but you are still going to use data streams. Okay. Question. There was some question that let me see if I'll see it. Screenshot. Unless I didn't post it. It was on increasing, the options were increasing the number of shards,
I think that was yesterday.
yeah.
They posted it in the group.
So it's either increasing the number of shards or changing the number of something. I'm not seeing it. Yesterday, how many questions did I post? I posted about TV, but I have two. So an IoT company is planning on distributing a master sensor in people's homes. In order to provide adjustment commands for this, the company would like to have a streaming system that supports ordered data based on, yes, this one there. Thousands of messages per second. This one was A. The company has multiple enterprise customers that manage their own mobile applications that capture and send data to Kineses streams. So they have been getting, so there is provision throughput exceeded exception message, right? And then you have been contacted to help upon analysis. All right. So we know, so yeah, that's when it says increase the number of shards. So each shard takes one message, right? Now, if you want to process more messages, definitely you increase the number of shards that is there. But here, when you are getting a throughput exceeded, right? If you are getting a throughput exceeded, then it means that probably you have even reached your shards limit. No, I think the shards that you can, but then the rate at which the messages are coming exceeds the throughput that you have, right? The messages are coming one by one, right? The messages are coming one by one. So for you to address that, it's not about increasing the number of shards, because increasing the number of shards won't actually reduce the speed at which the thing comes, because throughput is the the number of messages or the number of inputs and outputs a device is able to do at a time, right? Let me make sure I get the definition right. That's throughput. It's like the number of input and output I/O operation. Throughput is the rate at which something is processed. Yes, correct. So the number of units processed over a period of time, right? Yeah. So the input and output processes over a period of time. That is throughput. Okay. So if I have 1,000 messages coming in at a time, all right, like at a period of time. Meanwhile, I am supposed to just process about 100 messages, right, per shard at a period of time. Even if I increase the number of shards, I'm still the messages are still coming at that rate, and then the machine or service is not able to handle it. All right. So in Kineses, you have the option to use batch, right? So use batch messages. So what batch messages does is that it combines 100 messages and then it sends it at one, right? So the shard will see it as what? As one message and not a single message. So if you have 100, it won't see it as 100 messages, but it will see it as what? As one. Please, I hope that is clear. So you use, it is when they said, oh, you want to increase the number of messages that you process through the data streams, then you just increase the number of shards. As simple as that. But when it comes to throughput, then you are looking at what? Yeah, using batch messages. Macie is straightforward, protecting. Oh, why is my name? Hey, yes, protecting PIIs, right? Personal identifiable information. That is just it. So you save a customer's data. So let's take a hospital, for example, right? You save customers' data and it includes their health status. So it surprises you that or it's quite interesting that we get data on the number of HIV infections, right? Or yes, HIV infections that Ghana has in a year, or in the past 5 years, or in the past 3 years, but you don't know who. Okay. So yes, according to the is a health information portable something HIPAA, right? According to HIPAA, yes, this information needs to be protected. And then what's the reason? It's just to prevent stigmatization and then all those things. Okay. You know how COVID came. Even people that we claim to be our best friends, right? Your best friend. You hear that your best friend has COVID and then you don't want you don't want to even pick their calls because you feel like when you pick the call, you get COVID. True or false? When your best friend call you that, oh, I want to visit you, say, oh, no, no, no. MK, so you are asking, what if you don't have data streams in the option? I beg, come again because I didn't look at the message. So I've probably, yes, if you don't have data streams in the option and then you have firehose in the option, then you choose firehose. Right? I don't know which of, but I'm sure you are asking of the near real time thing or the real time thing. But any streams real time data streams. Okay, so COVID, you don't even want people to visit you. When lockdown came, you know, oh, you were happy. Hallelujah. Now nobody will even call you to come and visit, right? Your best friend, oh, because of COVID. So it's because of these things that hip hop brought these laws, right? So that if Asumesi is diagnosed with hepatitis, is diagnosed with HIV, right? Unless somebody that is close to him or her, or he or she willingly, gives out the information, then it stays with the hospital and him alone. Okay. So every data, even if you want to search data about the person, there is a public portal to get data about the person. You will never know the person's health status. You will not know their social security number. You will not know their account numbers. These are personal identifiable information, and one of the technologies that I used to, it's not as if those data is not that data is not collected. When you're going to do your Ghana card, they will ask you all this. SNIT. Now SNIT is merged with your Ghana card, right? So if you have a Ghana card, it's just like your SNIT card. Okay. But then if there is a public portal, we all go onto the internet. There's definitely a public portal that you can go for. And some of them, they are only available to the banks, right? If you send an ID card, so near real time with multiple destinations, and for that, there will never be a case where you don't have what's it called? Data streams in the options. Then that question is spanner. No, so yes, so if it's near real time with multiple destinations, because Firehose only sends to those three, right? I was even coming to make a case on. Then you can send it to an SQ. You can have these things pulling from it, or you can send it to SNS. But in fact, the only endpoint for Firehose is one at a time, and there are only three. So the only solution here will be what? Data streams. Okay. So, as I said, it's not as if they don't take your data. We all did Ghana cards. We all did voters ID, right? And we know the kind of information they collect. They will take your They will take your grandparents' name, your hometown, your house number, any phone number that you have, right? But even the banks, I've also worked at a bank before, right? At the back office. So even the banks, when you give them an ID card, they have a portal that they check the genuine, like how genuine your voter's ID is. Right. That is why you are always advised not to send fake documents to, especially when you are applying for visa and then all that. They will verify. Right? There are people who send like bank statements for people. I mean, they are sponsors. And fake, but sponsors from people that they don't know at all. And then you hear that, oh, they've denied you visa because they didn't find evidence of proper ties with the person. Therefore, the information is there somewhere. But you, and they are accessing it with compliance, right? But you, the general person, if you want to get information about Barack Obama, you are definitely going to know that he's a president, blah, blah, blah. But any other information about him, you don't get to see it. Okay. And this information, they are not even available to database administrators. That is one beauty thing of it. Right. So this is one of the technologies that I used to protect those data. So immediately Macie is deployed. Macie is able to scan and then see any PII in there, and it hides them. It hides those information. All right. We can't get into the hands-on for Macie. Let me see. If it costs money, we'll not do it though. Amazon Macie. $30-day free trial. Because this thing, for this feature, there's no charge for analyzing up to 150 GB of data during the first 30 days. You can review SAA before charges begin to accrue. Anything else? So after that, how much? Documentation. Okay. Pricing details. So, first terabyte for first month. That's one. Oh, and yeah, that's fine. That's fine. Sacrifices must be made. I will sacrifice. So I've enabled Macie. Everybody start doing so in case sick and gets here. Everybody will pay some. Okay. All right, so it will load charts. All right, but then we will still have to, I think we'll still have to create data. All right. So you can do findings by buckets, by type, by job. So to show data sensitivity access, enable to manage your account. Enable. It's currently disabled for your account. Monitor. No, I don't want this. Oh. Get started. So public bucket. So it means we'll have to have some data in our public bucket before. Okay, then we'll not do it. Let me see custom data identifiers. Create. I think this is it. So here I am able to create, right? So the name, you never enter sensitive data in the name or description of the identifier, or others might, yes. So the name of the identifier, the expression, I will enter. So it's like as far as in as much as it also has it automatic data sensitivity, we can still go ahead and specify other, right, other data that we want it to also, mask, right? But what I will do is that you let me leave it. God willing, tomorrow, after we talk about the FSX last time and all of that, then we'll come and do the Macie, because we've all spoken about it, but we haven't done anything on it before. So it will be nice we test it. It's a very nice testing though. I will not configure anything. Right? It's a nice stuff that we can explore. Okay, so we'll do that. All right, so I don't have any STA bucket. So God willing, tomorrow we'll do the hands-on on Macie as well. But that is basically the job of Amazon Macie. So you see that it will just mask out any information. So depending on what we give it, to mask out all those information, right? Yeah, so MKS, CloudWatch logs can be distributed Okay, so you specify where you would want to save your data, but know that CloudWatch logs are logs. So you don't use CloudWatch log to get streaming data, right? So let's get these things, the use cases. So as I said, for the question that you asked for the near real time with multiple, unless it's just a what's it called? What's it called? So you use Kineses data streams for stream data. Okay, so stream data like weather, conditions, humidity levels, Internet of Things like cars, and then all those things, sending their GPS locations, and then all those things. Okay, now you said you saw a question where logs, so the keyword here is what? Logs. Now stream data are not logs. Logs are data that are collected on systems. For example, your EC2, right? Installations that were done, configurations, like all those things, right? How your system operated and all those things. Okay, so you are sending logs, a list of logs. So it's just like you have a how people come in and out of a company, the things that they come and do, and then all that. You see, they have a book that they record all those things in. Those ones are logs. So you want a way that when CloudWatch saves these logs, right? When CloudWatch collects these logs, they are sent to a destination, right? So CloudWatch logs itself, right, is able to actually send this data into a location that you specify, right? You can send it to an SNS, as I said. You can send it to SNS. You can configure it to send to S3 as well as SNS. So it means that you get a notification that, okay, an EC2 instance has been what? Has been launched, or maybe something. And then that same log message is saved in, what's it called? An S3 bucket, right? So log data is different from what? Stream data. So you are not just looking at for real-time, or near real-time thing. The type of data is also important, right? So please, let us also take notice of these things, right? There's, so a typical scenario is the same thing with CloudWatch. So you want to recover an EC2 instance, right? So you have an EC2 instance, maybe two EC2 instances in an auto, they will even tell you in an auto scaling group. And you want, anytime an instance stops or an instance is unhealthy, I think it's anytime an instance stops, you would want to recover, or you want the instance to be relaunched or recovered, or another instance is launched in place of it, right? Normally you would want to go for, is it what, target tracking, something, but the answer is that you can activate a CloudWatch metric, right? You can activate a CloudWatch metric that will trigger anytime an EC2 instance becomes unhealthy or an instance is stopped. So the CloudWatch metric will restart the EC2 instance or relaunch the EC2 instance, right? So CloudWatch has a lot of, CloudWatch has a lot of capabilities as well. So most of the times too, but take notice of the type of data: stream data, log data, stream data, log data. So anytime you are heading towards Kineses, you are looking at clickstream, IoT, stream data. Sometimes they will not even bring all these things. They will tell you they take weather information, humidity. I forgot a lot of things, like the type of data that they collect, and then you get to realize that, okay, these are real-time data, because if you are taking data on humidity, then it's real time, right? Yeah. So so, but it is good that you brought it up, because a lot of things sometimes, you want to look out for keywords, but actually it will throw you off because you saw real time, near real time. No, the type of data is also important. So that's why, when I was writing, I first started with what? Stream data, right? Stream data before I talked about any other thing else. Okay. Is any more question? So now I am done. It's just about answering your questions. If you saw any questions somewhere, hey Prince, you did here. With time you come.
I can't keep small.
Oh, okay.
Look sharp then upload the recording so I go catch up.
Yeah, this one there. I will upload them sharp.
All right.
Okay, so I'm about to end the recording if no one has a question. It could even be unrelated. As far as I have the answers, why not? I'll just do my best to explain. All the questions that you've seen elsewhere. Some of the dams that you solve, if you see them, the explanation is not clear to you. Bring it. Let's talk about it. Because as I said, some of the dams, if you okra, a Richard will say a panla. Right. So we'll talk about it. Right. Any questions that you have doubt on, talk about it. Okay, so if there is no question, let me just end the recording. Right. If another one comes after I've stopped it to then it will be hey, where is the stop record?